Hi, and welcome to the Retirement Concepts podcast where we discuss both lifestyle and financial issues in retirement to help you understand them.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. And I'm very pleased to be able to introduce Lionel, who's just appeared on the scene. And today we're going to talk about the importance of pre-retirement. And there are many aspects of pre-retirement. Now, today Lionel's going to talk about the financial side of pre-retirement. I can talk about the lifestyle on the preparation later on, but at this stage we're going to talk about the importance of getting the financial aspects up to date and correctly focused. What have you got in mind?
Yeah, Pete, it's a couple of things that I want to talk about really. People are talking about their finances. Most people that aren't prepared for retirement are actually worried about their finances because they don't know where they're actually going to end up, whether their money's going to last long enough. Then I also want to talk about the many decisions that you have when you're leading into retirement. Like there's a number of them. We can talk about them for days. And then also when is the best time to prepare? And then what are the effects of not being prepared or having a plan in place at the moment? So where I wanted to start off was at the start of it was the mindset side of it. So mindset on retirement, thinking about retirement and preparing your mindset for retirement. So that's probably one thing that you could talk about a bit more, I think.
And it is important to think about that because whilst it may be an impossible number of years ahead or the like, this will go very quickly. That's the first thing. The second thing is that whilst 99% of the people watching this are going to make it, there'll be one or two that won't. The accumulated savings will mean it's a lot better for the beneficiaries. So it's far better to get your finances in order and start doing this as early as possible.
Yeah, it's far better to do it early. So, yeah, the mindset I find with people, especially the pre-retirees that are thinking about retiring and they're sort of just over the hump of 50 years old, usually towards the back end of those years, it's their late 50s and early 60s, people are really starting to think about retirement. So, commonly that we find the people that aren't prepared are the people that obviously got no ideas. So, and they're worried about their finances. Their mindset is just worry. They're worried about this, and they're worried about that because they obviously can't really envision where their finances are going to look. And the finances then do take over control of their overall life and they're thinking about it when realistically they should be thinking about all of the other lifestyle issues on how to fill the amount of time that you're going to have in retirement. So if you get your finances organized early on, then you know the trajectory that you're going to go to. You know the place that you're going to be roughly around the time that you're actually going to get to retirement. And then you're going to pretty much work out from us in the financial world, we're actually going to give you some guidance and say, this is where you could have likely have been if you didn't get advice. But if you did get advice, this is the landing point or the starting total of accumulated wealth that you're going to get to for retirement. Now, if you spend, say, $50,000, it's going to last till X amount of years. If you spend $60,000, it's going to last to a certain amount of years as well, Pete. So talk about a little bit the retirement income piece, what people are most worried about that you see.
Well, I see people worrying a lot about money, and usually it's because they're not prepared. For example, people retire and they spend their hours and hours looking at different rates of return that are available from this bank and that institution and so on and so forth. Whereas someone who is prepared, they have somebody looking after them to do that. And so they have a much happier life by being prepared. So that type of preparation is very important. The other is that in Australia, we do have Centrelink pensions. Now, not everyone's entitled to it, but most people these days are. And you need to get that sorted out well in your mind before you retire. Don't leave it until the day you retire and say, excuse me, Lionel, I want the Centrelink pension, because it doesn't happen that quickly. The preparation takes a while. So get these things in order and know that there's a fallback position called the Centrelink pension, and you'll have other assets on top of that to top up that pension to give you the livable income that you want. But it's all about planning. It's all about getting together and seriously looking at this problem and not assuming that somehow it'll sort itself out, because that's as rare as anything. It doesn't work. Only planning and preparation can make it work for you. So the income side, yes, you might worry about it, but with the proper planning, I can assure you, you'll worry far less about it.
Yeah, and the income side of it is a big question that everyone asks about, and we can't really put a number on how much income you're going to need, because everyone's going to be quite different to their current circumstances and their lifestyles, where they live, what they do in their lifestyle, and also what they enjoy doing as well. So the money is just going to give you the flexibility to go out and actually do the things that you want to go and do. So we're trying to give you the most maximized positioned to actually going to fulfill that retirement goal for as long as many years as it's going to happen. And like you said, the retirement income, the fallback plan is age pension. And age pension these days, if you're on a full age pension, as a couple that own their own home, you're taking home more than 40 grand a year, 40 grand tax free as well, mind you. So that's gives you a good fallback plan. But leading into retirement, there's a mindset with people about decision making. So leading into retirement, that's probably one of the good things that we do really well with people is strategize about the different decision makings, Pete. And some of those decision makings, I'd probably push this onto you as well. What are some of the major decisions that you need to think about leading into retirement?
Well, the first thing I think you've got to work out how long you want to live and get some estimate as to how long you might live. So some people have no idea how long they want to live, but it's reasonable these days to assume that you'll live a little bit longer than your parents did. We've got a better health situation. We're better privileged as far as our accommodation and our housing, and all the world we live in is better. So there's a good chance that you might live a little bit longer than your parents. And that gives people like Lionel a chance to give you some calculation as to how your money will go over that period of time, when Centrelink may or may not cut in, where it might help you and the like. But in a previous episode, we've talked about the importance of understanding that spending is often the problem. You've got plenty of money, but if you spend it incorrectly, you haven't got enough money. And so learning the habits early in the piece, whilst you're still working, while you're still accumulating, then you will be able to survive quite well on a reasonable level of income. And Lionel can tell you broadly what's the maximum you can spend in any 1 year so you don't destroy your future. That's where we can help.
Yeah, and the decisions about, I find a lot of decisions that people do come to us about is when to retire. How do you know when to retire? And if you've got your money organised and sorted and you know where your trajectory is going and how much you're going to end up with roughly or thereabouts, the decision to when to retire becomes a lot easier, because you're not working for a certain period of time to build up a certain balance of funds to tell you how long your money's going to last for. So the major decisions that we ever think about is when to retire, how much to retire on, the housing side of it. The housing is a big one these days, and particularly if you're living in Sydney. If your house is too big, if you've been there for a long period of time, it's harder to let go as well. What are some of the points that people should be thinking about for their housing, and what ages should you start thinking about it? Or not ages really, is it? Because it's more about the mobility.
Yeah, very much so. And the downsizing that we've talked about and other people have talked about over the years is a critical thing to get in your mind, that one day you may have to downsize. And if you're going to downsize, whatever the age is, forget the age, it's about mobility. But the older you get, the more urgent it becomes to downsize. For example, my wife and I recently downsized, and we moved from a house that had a lot of steps to an apartment that has no steps. So we solved that problem in one go. Unfortunately, my wife decided that falling down the stairs at the local Coles shopping centre would be a good idea. And so she's fine. And
She's all right.
it wasn't all that serious. But it made the point. And my wife was so happy that we'd made the move before that happened. Because if you're in a big house and you haven't made the decision to move, and something like that happens, and the older you are, the more likely it's likely to happen, you'll find that it's very difficult to move when an older person is the only person left to do all the cleaning up because the other person's in a boot or in hospital or something like that. You've got to do these things early rather than later. But one day, if you don't move, there's a high chance that there'll be a big price to pay. So think about moving as a concept of part of getting older. That's one of the things we've all got to do. And then later on, you've got to think about, retirement villages and aged care facilities and the like, but that's another subject on what we're talking about now.
Yeah, that's a good point there, Pete. The housing, the downsizing of the housing and doing it at the right time when you can actually make a decision is critical as well. Like most people do have a big attachment to their house because it's the only place they've ever lived for a long period of time and the kids have grown up there and all that sort of stuff. But when it's not practical for you, then try and think with more of a logical mindset about the housing. Is it the right place for you to live? Probably one of the points or the tips I would say when thinking about downsizing, and a lot of people that have done this as well have moved from the city, for example, and have gone to either the north coast or the south coast. Make sure you actually like the place that you're going to go and live in. So don't just sell up altogether and not spend some time in the area that you actually want to buy a house in. I always suggest that you either rent out your house or leave it vacant for a month or two and actually go and rent an Airbnb in the place that you're actually going to live, because it's very hard to unsell a house, or you can't unsell a house once it's been sold and it's gone, because you've actually done, the horse is bolted then. So one tip of advice is just make sure you thinking about the places that you want to live long term for certain periods of time of your retirement, go on and spend some time there. Stay there for a month or two at least.
And as well as that, it's important to understand that if you're going to move a long way from where you are, your friends that you leave behind will not continue to come and see you. And you won't continue to come back and see them. In fact, we work on the principle that if you move 200 kilometres or more away from your current circle of friends, over the years, that circle of friends will disappear out of your life. That means you've got to create another circle of friends up in a new place, and that's possible. I understand that. Won't quite be the same as the circle of friends you're leaving. So we would encourage you to do exactly what Lionel's suggesting. And that's to test out where you might live and look at it, go shopping, understand the people, get to know a few people and the like, and then you can make a serious decision as to whether you want to move. But too many people, for example, from Melbourne went to live in Port Macquarie. Then they decided that didn't like it and they had to go back, or one of the partners died and they had to go back because they were lonely. They wanted to go back to their friends. But their circle of friends had changed. And all those people they'd left behind as good friends now had another circle of friends. And you were not included in it. And so it becomes a very difficult task to go back to where you were once you've made that type of move. So moving is a very important decision to make. That's where I can help you in particular, because I've had a lot of experience in seeing people do that. So if you've got any questions, give me a ring. Quite happy to chat to you about that. But just remember the 200 kilometre, that if you go more than 200 kilometres from your original place where you were living, your friends will not come and see you forever. But it's with 100 kilometres or so, yes, you can stay in touch and you can visit and you can meet halfway and do all that. But the 200 kilometre zone is a very, very important thing to remember if you're going to move later on in life.
It's great tip, Pete. Yeah, a lot of those tips. Yeah, another thing about pre-retirement years, a lot of people that I speak to and a lot of people I actually came across when I was at the caravanning and camping show were talking about, well, when is the right time to hitch the caravan and travel around Australia? How do you know when the right time is to go and do it? Do I have enough money? Can I take time off work? And things like these are all the questions that we get throughout the course of our meetings all the time. And working together with a planner or an advisor, you're actually strategizing those different areas and actually we're actually asking you the questions, how it's all going to work and how it's all going to unpack for you. And then if you don't have an idea, then we actually can help you make it a reality. And if that's really important to you, then obviously not give you the keys because you're going to buy the caravan yourself, but you're going to go off and do it on your own. Have you done any traveling yourself like that, or you known many people doing the caravanning?
I've known a lot of people that do the caravanning.
Yeah.
And
what's your experience?
And they thoroughly enjoy it and they have a wonderful, wonderful experience. And one thing will happen is that when you do that type of trip for maybe 12 months, 18 months or whatever you decide to do, you will change. You will be a different person when you come back. You've met a whole lot of different people. You've seen different things. You've learned a lot more. You've been doing so many different things than you would normally do back home. So just be prepared that when you come back, your friends will seem different and you'll be different to them. Not that I'm saying you'll lose your friends, but I'm saying it is rather different when you get back. On the other side of the coin, I remember a customer I went to see, and after a while I said to them, how's that van going out the back? Oh, we love that van. It's absolutely fantastic. Well, when was what type of traveling have you done? Well, we did this wonderful trip. We went up the coast and went across to Darwin and down and back home, and we were away for about 5 months. It was absolutely fantastic. We love it, he said. And I said, when was that? And he said, about 5 years ago. In other words, the idea of buying a van was important to them, and he bought the dream and he lived the dream for one trip. Now he's got a van rusting away in his garage. So these are things that you must think about before you go. You can quite easily rent a van and carry that around, take that around Australia. There's no doubt about that. But if you're going to buy it and spend quite a lot of money to get really decent vans, then are you going to keep doing it? Or is it a one-off? Because it's going to cost a lot of money to sell that as well.
Try before you buy.
That type of thing is very, very important.
It's probably the good tips that we're talking about here is try before you buy.
Yeah.
Try it. You can always rent a van. Camp life, I think it is. There's a number of different camping things. So try before you buy. But yeah, I've got a number of people that are traveling around Australia at the moment. So happy. Hello to all those clients that are traveling around Australia at the moment. A lot of people have been to Darwin recently for the Darwin races. They're all over Western Australia. There seems to be a big buzz about Western Australia at the moment. Apparently there's heaps of people over there because it's freezing cold over here and it's probably really nice weather over in Western Australia at the moment. So, but yeah, how do we sort of facilitate that conversation and make the plan a reality is sort of just really looking back at your finances really. So looking back at the overall finance piece, whether it's super, whether you can access money from super or not. If you do have time on your hands to prepare for this stuff, we've got some great strategies to using investment bonds or things like that, where you can invest money for a certain period of time and start pulling it out after a certain period of time, tax-free as well. Tax-free is one of the big things that we talk about in the financial planning area. We want to maximize and utilize the tax-free areas as much as we can. But Pete, when is the best time to even think about retirement? What's a sort of an age that you'd say I've gone past that or I'm approaching this age? When would you think about going?
Well, I find that around the age of 50 is a time when you can start thinking about it. Now, if you're not there, still start thinking about it. If you are there, start thinking now. Now, the earlier you start, the better. And there's a very good reason for that. Let's say you've got 10 years or 15 years before you might retire. By the way, nobody said you had to retire, but you might retire to suit your circumstances. If you're going to retire in 14 years or whatever the case may be, What you can do between now and then is to learn about the issues of retirement and get to a point where you better understand them and you develop the habits that are necessary at the time of retirement. You can start learning those now so that there's a smooth transition from your working life into your new form of retirement life. So the earlier, the better. And if you haven't started before age 50, start right now. And I'm happy to help people out with that. Just give me a call or contact me on the details that are given to you there in the podcast. But it's just a matter of getting the thinking straight, because there's a good chance that you could be in retirement for a long time. Now, a long time is 30 years. Now, if you live that long, that's 11,000 days you've got to fill in. And that means you've got a lot of things to do and a lot of time to fill in and make it meaningful. And that's where both Lionel and I can help you.
Yeah, that's a great point to make. So yeah, the retirement piece is start as early as you can, really thinking about your overall finances is going to give you a grasp on what you are doing presently and making sure the things that you're doing, saving money, not spending money. Saving money is a big thing. Investing money, putting money into the right areas like superannuation because of its tax advantages. When you hit 60 plus, you're setting your money into a tax-free pension account and start drawing a tax-free pension from that. So that's say 50, when you're over the hump, we call it, over the hump, and a lot of people start thinking about retirement when they're over 50. It's all downhill from there, they say. But life's not all the way downhill from there. You just make sure you're making use of what you're actually use of the time that you have at that present time. And if you're thinking about it being downhill, then it's going to be downhill. But if you've got positive mindset for it and you're planning and you're prepared for it, then it's going to be a fabulous point in time in retirement when you get there. So yeah, that's we're going to wrap it up there for this podcast. Thanks to the Bella Vista Hotel for hosting us again. We've wrapped up another one today. But other than that, if you like the content, make sure you please like it, subscribe, and share it with your friends. We've got a Facebook page and we've also got an Instagram page. Make sure you jump over and follow them. And our Facebook page as well. If you've got questions about your own retirement or questions about leading up to retirement, then make sure you post them on there. Until then, bye for now.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Retirement Concepts podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to let people know by sharing the episode around, rating and reviewing the podcast on the platform you listen on. Also, if you need some guidance on preparing for retirement, please head over to our website lbrc.au to grab a copy of our little book of retirement concepts that brings you closer to having a fabulous retirement. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.